the world of social media is booming again. Jungkook's name, BTS's golden magne who has been known for his dedication and professionalism, is again dragged by a whirlpool of wild issues that spread uncontrollably. This time it's not about work, nor about achievements, but hoaxes that touch the most sensitive sphere, personal condition and health. In the midst of the growing rush of speculation, one voice finally appeared and instantly changed the course of the discussion. Jimin, Jungkook's best friend and groupmate, finally opened his voice. His statement was not just a clarification, but an emotional appeal that moved the hearts of the army around the world. This issue stems from cut images, vague narratives, and one-sided assumptions that circulate quickly on various platforms. Without a clear source, without confirmation, the news was transformed into a netizen version of truth. Jungkook is said to have experienced certain conditions, attributed to changing schedules, until he was drawn into various conspiracy theories that even grazed internal conflicts. In a matter of hours, Jungkook's name occupied the trending ranks, not because of music or achievements, but because of news that was not necessarily true. In the midst of this, Jimin appeared, not through big press conferences, not with rigid statements full of formalities, but through honest expressions that feel very personal. Jimin's words felt like a rebuke as well as a hug for the army. He did not cover his fatigue to see his friend continue to be the target of speculation. In a calm but firm tone, Jimin conveyed one important thing: enough of the spread of hoaxes about Jungkook. For Jimin, Jungkook is not just a colleague. They are brothers who have grown up together since adolescence, sharing dreams, pressures, and burdens that have never been fully seen by the public. When Jimin said that much of the news circulating was simply not true, the statement felt like more than a clarification. It's a form of protection. He seemed to be standing in front of Jungkook, holding back the storm of rumors that continued to hit. Jimin's statement also opened the eyes of many about the dark side of fandom and social media. He warned that excessive care without foundation can actually turn into pressure. He alluded to how a twisted narrative, even wrapped in a worry excuse, can still hurt. In his sentences, deep disappointment is implied, seeing how empathy is sometimes lost by the desire to be the one who knows best. The army's reaction was divided. Some were touched and immediately called for a halt to the spread of baseless news. Hashtags of support for Jungkook and appreciation for Jimin flooded the timeline. But there are also those who feel defensive, as if reprimanded personally. Here lies the power of Jimin's statement. He did not blame directly, but invited to stop for a moment and think. Does sharing really help, or does it make things worse? Despite all this, Jungkook remains silent. The attitude that he has consistently shown every time he is confronted with an issue. Jungkook's silence is often mistaken for a confession or a sign that something is being hidden. In fact, for those who know him, silence is his way of surviving. Jimin seemed to want to explain it without having to say it explicitly. That not all things need to be explained, and not all silence means wrong. Jimin's statement also shows an emotional maturity that is rarely talked about. He understands that fame comes with a price, but he also resists it when the price is paid with the mental health and privacy of those he cares about. In an entertainment world that often normalizes gossip, Jimin's attitude feels like a subtle but powerful resistance. Korean media also highlighted this moment as a turning point, not because of the drama, but because of the courage of an idol to openly ask his own fandom to be wiser. It's not easy. There is a risk of being misunderstood. There is a potential backlash. Jimin did it, and it is precisely there that many people see sincerity. For the army, this became a moment of reflection. They have always been known as a solid and protective fandom. But this case shows that the line between protecting and harming can be very thin. Jimin invites to return to the essence of the beginning. Love through support, not through speculation. At the end of his statement, Jimin did not ask for sympathy. He only asked for one simple but crucial thing. Stop hoaxes. Let Jungkook breathe, create, and live his life without the added burden of man-made rumors. The phrase resonated, not just as a message to the army, but as a reminder to anyone living in the age of unfiltered information. The truth Jimin revealed that day was not about the details of Jungkook's condition, but about shared responsibility, about how love is supposed to work, about the courage to say enough even to those who claim to care. And amid the cacophony of cyberspace, Jimin's voice stands as a marker that behind the spotlight, BTS remains human. Humans who can get tired, can get hurt, and are in dire need of understanding. Continued article. Jimin's wave of statements did not stop overnight. The days that followed actually showed a much greater impact than many people expected. Discussions about the ethics of fandom, the limits of caring, and the responsibility of disseminating information began to emerge. Many soldiers eventually admitted that they had been caught up in the whirlpool of social media speed, where the desire to be first often trumps the necessity to be right. Jungkook's name was again mentioned, this time not as an object of speculation, but as a symbol of how fragile the human behind superstar status is. What Jimin revealed felt like opening the curtain that had been covering BTS's reality. Behind the grandiose stage, the cheers, and the constantly breaking records, there is a psychological pressure that never really goes away. When one small issue is allowed to grow, its impact can be far more devastating than direct criticism. Jimin understands that because he lives in it. He knows how one rumor can eat away at self-confidence, disrupt sleep, and elicit camera-unseen anxiety. Some internal sources in the Korean entertainment industry even said that Jimin's statements are rare at the level of idols like BTS. Usually the clarification is left to the agency or allowed to subside on its own. But this time it was different. This is not about the image of the group, but about people. Jimin seemed to reject the old cold mechanism and chose a more honest, riskier, but more meaningful path. Army International began translating and spreading Jimin's message in a more reflective tone. Instead of debating the content of rumors, they began to campaign for digital literacy and empathy. Some large fan bases even removed old uploads that were considered potentially misleading. A small step, but full of meaning. For the first time in a long time, a digital space that is usually filled with theories and assumptions is turning into a space of introspection. On the other hand, Jungkook's silence is increasingly understood. Many fans eventually realized that not all answers had to come from the person to whom the issue was addressed. Sometimes the best advice comes from people who really know you. Jimin had spoken, and that was more than enough. Jungkook does not need to prove anything, because his own existence all this time is proof of consistency and dedication. This moment also emphasizes the emotional connection between BTS members that has only been seen briefly on the screen. What Jimin did was not a spontaneous act, but a reflection of time-tested ties, global pressure, and unreasonable expectations. He knows the risks. He knew someone would twist his words. But he still chose to speak, because silence this time felt even more dangerous. For the entertainment industry, this event became a mirror. A world that constantly demands transparency from public figures often forgets that there are limits that should not be violated. Jimin, without naming or cornering any particular party, managed to convey a sharp criticism of the culture of rumor consumption. A simple message, yet it struck right at the heart of the issue. Over time, the issue of hoaxes about Jungkook slowly subsided. Not because it is forgotten, but because it is defeated by consciousness. The realization that loving an idol does not mean having the right to every detail of his life. The realization that true support sometimes means refraining from speaking up. At the end of all this hustle and bustle, one thing becomes clear. The truth revealed by Jimin is not just about Jungkook, but about all of us as spectators, fans, and social media users. About the choices we make each time we press the share button. About the impact of words that may feel light, but can be a heavy burden for others. And when the dust finally settled, Jungkook's name was again called in a quieter way. Not as a victim of rumors, but rather as a figure protected by sincere friendship and a fandom that is beginning to learn. While Jimin, with one honest statement, has left an important mark on BTS's journey, a reminder that in a noisy world, the courage to tell the truth and stop can be the most revolutionary act.